Right. So whatever we have discussed in our previous session regarding array, and few of the methods also we have gone through. So every methods and the description of array have been given in this particular document, which is similar for array in JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay. I have also uploaded this in our Drive folder where you will be able to see all these things. There are like all all usable methods that we have in array. I have already mentioned it over here as well. You can go through with this whenever you get time, whenever you get time to go through with. Apart from that, let's start with wherever we have left it yesterday. So we have gone through with few of the methods, which is push, pop, unshift, and shift, slice, and splice. So we have seen also the difference between what is a difference between push and unshift. Push is basically add one or more element at the end of an array, whereas unshift add one or more element at the beginning of an array. Pop removes the last element from an array, and shift removes the first element from an array. You have also seen what is difference between slice and splice. Slice basically used to get the portion which is like similar to substring when we want to get like substring from a string. So we use a slice, or we also use a substring method. In the same way, if you want to get some portion of an element, some value from an array, we can use slice method as well. In terms of splice, we have gone through, it is used to insert and remove element in between the array at the same time. So whenever we want to delete and add the value at the same time from an array, we can use a splice method as well. So there will definitely be a question that what is difference between slice and splice? So that you can go through with, and then uh, few of the popular functions that we have or method that we have in terms of array, we'll go through with it in our today's session. So let's start with the next method that we have. These are these methods that are not so frequently useful in terms of the test automation, but it is always better to know all this so that we can utilize it whenever we require any logic to be written or anything that we can include in terms of test automation. Okay, so next one is known as indexOf. IndexOf is a method which returns the first index, whatever the value that we are trying to provide over here. This will also take a parameter. So what will be the parameter? Parameter will consist of a value. We'll see the index and then we'll go through with this. So this will return the first, this indexOf will return the first index at which a given element is matching. What is in where that is? This will return us the first index at which the given parameter element is matching. Okay. Let's see what is the syntax of the indexOf method. So indexOf is basically used to get the what is the value. Like array consists of multiple elements, right? So whenever we want to get the let's say index of TS, how do we get those values? So if you want to get the index of orange, how would you how will you get the values of values as an index of a value that is available inside an array? Okay, so at that point of time we can use indexOf. So how it is work in general is, if you see over here, it's a simple. So array 10, let's say we have a declared array 10 over here, and from that we can get is like array 10 dot indexOf. The syntax is array name dot indexOf, and then it will take a parameter as any value of the array. It can take any elements from an array. So now if you see over here, it is saying like array 10, which is the which is basically an array that we have declared over here, and then index of, and we are saying what is the value of tx, what is the index of tx. It might have been removed in our previous session, I believe, which is this one. The current array 10 that we have is this one. Let me also declare one more array so that we can use that for the going forward sessions. So we'll just say it as array const array 11 equals to, let's say, 23, 13, some values that I'm trying to enter it over here. Okay. And now we want to get the index of the value that is 14. Let's say example, if you just want to get the index of a value that is available inside an array, which is 14. So how do we get that? By using an index of method. Index of method will be used on the iterator, which is array, whatever the array that we have used over here. And then we can see it as index of whatever the value that we want to check what is the index of that particular element inside an array. Okay, so let's try to run and then see how it is happening. So whatever the index, what is the index for this? As we know that index starts with 0. Index basically starts with 0 in terms of array. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and basically 14 is 3. So as per the definition, it says that return us the first index at which the given parameter element is matching. If no match, then it will return -1. Okay, that means it is saying that there is no match. If you get the result as -1, that means there is no match. If you see in this one, it is saying a -1 because we have used array 10 over here. And for the latest value of array 10 is this one, 34, 45, pink, red, apple, and orange. We do not have 14 available inside that. So in that case, we missed over here to use array 11. Now let's try to run once again and see what is the value it is displaying. Sure, it should have to display 3 because 14 is available as third place. 1, 2, 3, and 4th. That means 0, 1, 2, and 3. This is available at third index of an array. Okay. Okay. So this is available as third index of an array, and that's where it has given the first occurrence. Let's say we also have one more element which is like 14, or one more value that is available inside an array is 14. At that point of time, also it will just give the 3 value itself, though it is having multiple similar data available inside an array, because it says it returns the first index at which the given parameter is matching. Okay. So at that point of time also it will give us the value which is wherever the first element is matching, it will provide us the index of the first occurrence of an element. Now we can also do one thing. So we can also, let's say then in that case, how do we get the value of 14? How do we get the value of this 14? That what is the index of this 14, right? So in that case, what we can do is we can also write something like this, which is index of 14. And then it says that we can start an index, which is basically the total syntax that we have seen over here, which is array name dot index of element. And then there is an optional parameter known as start index. Element is something that we are trying to search, which is also, we can say it as search element. That means whatever the element that we are trying to search inside an array. And this is start index. We can also write an start index. After that particular index, it will start searching for the element that we have provided over here. So let's say we'll say it as at 4th. So what is meant by this is, it is saying search for an element which is 14, whether that is available inside an array or not, starting from fourth index. So what is fourth index? 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is fourth. So it will start searching from 25, the element that is available as 25 inside an array. And now we'll see that it will be able to, now it will see that, now we'll see that it will be able to provide us the value for this particular 14. That means provide us the index for this particular 14. Okay. So now let's try to run this and see how it is happening. So we can see that at the first time, for this one, it is displaying us a value as 3. And for this one, it is displaying us a value as 6, which is last index of an array. Okay. So this is one way, again, like we can get the value of second element. And if you want to get the value of all the elements that I am making, I'm providing you an assignment. So what is the assignment over here is, get the index of all occurrences of an element from an array. Okay. So let's say you can declare array something which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again 2, 3, 2, something 2, again 2, and so on. So your task is to get the all occurrences of value 2. All occurrences of value 2. So we know that value 2 are available at 4 times, right? Value 2 are available at 4 times. So you have to get the all indexes of the value 2 that is available inside an array. Just a hint that you can use a for loop over here. Okay, you can use a for loop over here. First, try to get the index of first try to write the index, that try to get the index of first occurrence, and after that use a for loop, and then again try to search for the index. And we know that it also takes a start index. So wherever it matches, your start index will become the previous index plus 1. Okay, try to search it, try to execute this code by writing the logic. Sorry, try to complete this code by writing the logic. If unable to write, then I'll explain you in our next session. And also, whatever the assignment that I'm providing for you, I'll provide the answers inside the Q&A.ts. Okay, all the assignment that I'm providing you, you will get the answers for all the assignments inside the Q&A.ts as well. Okay, so this is the value of this is basically the use of indexOf method available inside and any questions over here? You can probably use a for loop or while loop, whatever the loop that you want to use, you can use it over here. Any questions or confusion? Okay, let's move to the next one, which says that includes. So includes is a method which is similar to contains in Java. So includes, whenever we use includes, or whenever we have to check whether an element is available inside an array or not. Okay. So how do we say in terms of Java is, let's say value which is 1 contains inside the array, right? Contains whatever the value that we are trying to search inside. So here also includes works in the same way. It says that it checks whether whether an array consists of or includes the searchable element. It will take a parameter as well. So it will take a parameter and says that it checks whether an array, whatever the value that we are trying to search inside an array, includes the search parameter. Includes the search element that we are trying to search. Okay. If it is available, it will display as a value. If it is not available, then see what is happening. So what is the syntax that we have? It is array name dot includes. Okay. This is again similar to the index of returns us the index of the value wherever it is matching. Index of the first value, first occurrence of an element wherever it is matching. In terms of includes, it checks whether an array includes the search element or not. And we can also provide the from index as well. That means starting index as well. From where do you want to search the element inside an array? Okay. So let's see an example. Let's say we have array 11 we have already declared over here. You can just say it as array 11 dot includes, which is what kind of value that we are trying to search. So let's say if we are saying 12, whether this includes 12 or not. If you hover over on this, it says that it determines whether an array includes a certain element, returning true or false as appropriate. So what is under that is, in terms of index of that we have gone through recently, it returns us a value, which is the index of an element, or if it is not matching, then it will return us -1. In terms of includes, it checks whether an element is available inside an array or not. That means it will either return us a true if the value is available inside an array. At that point of time, it will return us a true. If the value is not available inside an array, then it will return us a false. This method that we see over here includes will be very helpful in terms of the test automation. Most of the time we'll try to check whether the text value is equal to or includes some other text value or not inside the test automation for the verification. At that point of time, we can use includes method. Okay. So this includes method will either return true or false, which is a Boolean condition. It will just return true or false. If the value is matching, then it will return true. If the value is not matching, at that point of time, it will just return a false. So let's say here in terms of TypeScript, we cannot check in this way. So let's say I'll just say it as 0, whether 0 is available or not. We know that the 0 is not available inside an array. So at that point of time, it will throw us a false value. If it is matching, then it will throw us a true. If it is not matching, then it will throw us a false value whenever we use includes method. So this will be very helpful, very handy in terms of the test automation as well. Okay, this is very simple as part of the methods. Now till now, so whatever we have seen over here till now, most of the methods, except wherever we require a single element, most of the time it has given us or returned us a value in array format itself. What is in the array format? It has displayed the value inside a square bracket itself. Okay, now let's see, we have one particular method that it has given is known as toString. What it does is it generally used to convert an array into string. Okay. So whenever we use a toString method, it converts all the arrays that we have given. Let's say we have declared array 11 over here. So it converts the value. It converts the value and print us or display us as an string format. So let's say what is the syntax of this? Let's see an example and then we can check it out how it is working. So the syntax is array name dot toString. That's it. It do not include any kind of parameters. So let's say what we'll do is like we'll say it as console log, and then on array 11 dot toString. Array 11 dot toString. So what it does is as part of the definition, we can say it says that It returns a string representation of an array. Let's also try to print the array over here that we have declared, which is like array 11. So let's try to see what happens here and what happens here. You'll see the exact difference that what toString is trying to do over here. So now if you see after the execution, if you try to see the example, you'll see that for this line number 131 that we are trying to go through right now, 131 has displayed as a value exactly similar to however we have defined the value, which is in terms of array format inside the square bracket. In terms of array format means inside the square bracket. Whenever a value that is displaying inside the square bracket will be an array, will basically be known as an array in TypeScript. But if you see this one, when we have used toString, it has displayed the similar value along with the comma separated as well, but it did not display us as an array format. That means it has just displayed the value in terms of a string. This is just considering as an string. So toString method, whenever we have to convert an array to a string, we can directly use a toString method so that it will convert the array value into string and it will return the value as a part of string itself. Here it is returning an array format. Here it is returning a value as a part of string without square bracket. Okay, so toString is generally used for converting the array into a string format. Now we'll see there are a few different methods that we have, which is forEach, filter, map, and reduce, sum, and every. We'll see that these methods are generally accepting a parameter as function. Okay, so these methods are generally accepting parameter as a function. The parameter that we have used earlier, even for includes it, accept a parameter, indexOf accept a parameter, and so on. Let's see about the different method that we that we have right now, which is forEach. It accepts a parameter as function. We have already gone through what is function and how do we declare that. So let's see the definitions of this forEach. What forEach method that is available inside an array. So first we'll try to see the definition and then we'll go for syntax. So the definition for this forEach loop, it says that it executes a function, whatever the function that we have given over here or that we'll be giving inside the forEach loop. It executes a function once for each and every element of an array. What is meant by that? So let's say whatever the number that we have, example, let's say we have, let's declare one more. Okay, so as part of definition of for each method, it says that it executes a function. Which function? The function that it will take as a parameter. So it will execute a function once for each and every element of an array. The function that will be providing as a parameter, that function will be applicable for each and every element for an array once. Okay, let's see the syntax. What is the syntax that we have over here? So the syntax, if you see, it's a slight difference that we have the array name dot for each. Array name dot for each, a method that we'll be using, and this will take a parameter as function. So we know that how do we declare a function? There are different ways in which we can declare a function. One is by using function and function name. Other is anonymous function where we do not write the name of the function. So here, if you see, this is an anonymous function which accepts a 3 parameters. Okay, well, all are not mandatory, but which accepts a 3 parameters. One parameter which you see as a current value is mandatory over here. But let's see what is the significance of these current value index and array. So the syntax is array name, the array that we have declared, dot for each method. This for each method will accept a function as a parameter. Okay. And this function will accept a couple of parameters. Let's see what is the significance of these parameters. So if you see the current value that it is displaying, it is saying the current value as a parameter, which function will take as a parameter. So this current value represents the current element being processed in an array. What is meant by that? So let's say we have an array which is array 11 over here. Whenever we say current value, that means for the first step, this will for each method will in generally, if you see about the logic inside this, will work as a for loop or will work as a any of the loop that we have. What is meant by loop? Loop will execute till the condition becomes false, right? In the same way, this for each will work as far as we have an element available inside an array. That means the number of elements that we have available inside an array, for those many times, this for each will work. For each will run. The function that it is taking as a parameter will accept a couple of parameters. The first one is current value. So whenever it starts running for the first time, it will get the value which is 23 available from the array. For the second time, this current value becomes 12. For the third iteration, the current value becomes 13 and so on. So current value means the current element being processed in the array. Whatever the current element is available inside an array. For the first, as I said, for the first time 23, for second time 12, for third time 13, and so on. That represents the current value. What is the index that we have? So index represents the index of the current element being processed in the array. So current value, we know that this is 23 example for the first time. And it will also have an index of that particular element. So this index that we see, it represents the index of the current element that is being processed. That means index of the current value. Okay. These are again optional. Even if you do not provide the for each method will run properly. And the third one is, which is completely optional, which says that array, the third value that we see over here as a part of the syntax, which is this one, array. It says that the array the current element belongs to, or any object that implements the array. So it is saying that we can also use an array that we have used over here as a part of array name that we are trying to use. Example, we have array 11. So if we, how do we use this? We can directly say it as, let's say, example, array name dot for each. Okay, and then it will take a function. We'll see in a minute, like how do we write the example. First, try to understand what we are trying to discuss over here. So this array is completely optional and mostly will not be using, because this array that we have declared that it is asking us to, you can declare optionally, will be exactly similar to the array name that we are trying to discuss over here. Okay, so the array the current element belongs to is the definition of this array. So you can use, as we know that we are trying to use array over here, so we do not require again array to be and the same array to be declared as a part of the function argument. Okay, so this is the complete syntax of for each method that we have available inside an array. Let's see a few of the values that we can take it over here. Let's declare an array. We'll say it as, let's say, let, and we can declare an array which is array 12. And let's declare some value which is, let's say, blue. Then we have TypeScript. We also have JavaScript. We can also enter few other values. Probably, let's say, Right. Some random value I'm trying to declare it over here. Let's say we have these five value that is available over here. Now, wherever you see that these for each loop, right, for each method or other method that we have like filter, map, reduce, for those we can also use for loop, either traditional for loop or the loop for off loop that we have seen for uh, to get the value from an array. Okay, but if you do not want to use loop, let's say traditional for loop or for off loop, at that point of time, you can use directly the for each loop to get the value from an array. So let's say our requirement, our major requirement over here is to get the value of an array along with the index of the value. Okay, get the value of an array along with the index of the value. How do we get that? So one thing that we can use is we can directly use a for off loop as well. So for off loop, what for off loop says that we can use a for, then declare a variable, which is, let's say, I'll just say it as ele, which is element of, from where we are trying to get, the value from array to array. Okay. And whenever we try to get the value, we can directly say it as element over here. And here also, this will also print us the complete value that we have inside an array. So if you try to print the value, it will print all the value that we have inside an array, which is starting with blue and ending with apple over here. Now, whenever, if you want to get the index as well, like as part of our requirement is to get the value along with the index of the value. So we have discussed earlier that we have also one of a loop available, which is known as for in loop. So whenever we use for in loop, in terms of for off loop, this LE will have an idea of the value that it is available inside an array. In terms of in, this LE is a variable that we have given over here. Or let's give just an E. So the E, that the variable that we have given over here, will get the index of all the values that is available inside an array. So if you try to print, it will just print the index of all the elements that is available inside an array, which is 0 to 4. Now, if you want to print values along with the index, so at that point of time, how do we get the value from an array? Whenever we know that we have an index, how do we get the value from an array? By just using array 12 and then index inside the square bracket, right? So we can just say it as array 12 of what of index. What is the identification of index over here is A. A consists of all the index from the array. So we can use this as well. And now if you see over here, it will print us the value, which is index and the value of an array. Okay. So if you have to get this requirement fulfilled, like get the value along with the index of from an array, then we can also use for in loop. Or if you have to get the value from an array, we can use for off loop. But if you do not want to use the for loop or any of the loop to get the value from an array, we can directly use for each method that they have given. So this for each method will accept a function. So we'll just write a function over here. What kind of function that we are trying to do? We are trying to print the value, which is the value of an array, as well as the index of those value that is available inside an array. Okay, so what we are trying to print over here is we are trying to print the value along with the index of the value. Right. So we have seen one way where we can print the value along with the index by using for in loop as well. But if you do not want to use for any of the looping concept, then we can directly use a method that is available over here as for each loop. Just try to concentrate on this because all the methods that we'll be using now going forward in next 10 minutes will be a filter, map, reduce, sum, and every. will take the similar kind of functions and will also have the same parameters available inside the functions. Okay, so if you understand this for each, that means automatically you will understand the other method that we'll be discussing as a part of array. Okay, so for each method takes a function as a parameter, and this takes a couple of functions. So first one is current value, right? We can give any identification. It is not something that we have to use a current value itself. We can use a current value. You can give any let's say element as well over here. So whatever the first parameter that you declare over here will be known as a current value as a parameter. Okay. If you want to declare a current value or some meaningful name, you can provide it over here. So I'm just saying as a current value for now. And then the second parameter is index. Okay. What we are trying to do, we know that this index is an optional. If you want to get the index, this says that the index of the current element being processed, and current value is the current element being processed in an array. That means the current value from an array. And this index will have an idea of the index of the current value. Like, so we are trying to write a function over here. And then inside this function, we have declared two values. One is array. One is like element of an array, like the current element of an array. And then second is the index of the current element from an array. And now our requirement is to print over here something in the similar way, which is like index and value or value and index. So how can we do that? We can directly use console log, and then we can directly say it as current value that we have given as a parameter over here, which is this one, and print, and then print the value of the print the index of the value. So if you see over here, earlier we have used for in loop, which is exactly similar to this one. Here it is accepting a function, whatever the function that we define. This is a complete function. Whatever we have written inside the curly braces is a part of the function. Okay, so we are saying here that print current value along with the index of the value. Okay, and this function is a part of the for each method which accept a function, and that function we have written inside the for each method as a parameter. Okay, now let's try to execute the code, and then we'll see that it will display us the similar value that it has displayed earlier. Let me also give something over here. Okay, so if you see now, this one, which is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, along with the value is appearing from this one, this for in loop. And the next one that we have declared is blue, which we have printed as a first value. First, we have printed as a value, and then we have printed the other value as a parameter over here. Sorry, index of the value over here. So we can see like blue 0, TS1, JS2, and so on. It has displayed in the same way. So if you want to, if you do not want to write the looping concept to get the value from an array, we can also use a for each loop. So if you just want to get the value, let's say if you just want to get the value, you can still use the for each method and provide only the parameter that you require. So if we just want to get the value from an array, we do not require index to be used it over here. So in this case, if you see, it will just display the value, only the value that it is having inside the array. So it has displayed the value, which is blue, starting with blue and ending with apple, that we have declared inside the array. This is a simple value, simple functions that we have written, which gets the value. So in terms of for each loop, okay, so in terms of for each method that we have on array, it will display, it will return us exactly, it will return us the value, whatever it is matching from the array. Okay, and whatever it is available inside an array, that it will return us based on the function that we have written. Based on the function that we have written, it will return us a value from the array one by one. Okay, so that is the use of for each method which is available on an array. Any question or any confusion over here? Able to understand whatever we are going through with?
Yes, Praveen.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Now let's move to the other methods that we have. So these are basically an important in terms of interview purpose. Might not be using or might sometimes like 1% of the time we can use these methods, but it is always important for us in terms of understanding these methods. So whenever it requires, we can directly use these methods available inside an array in terms of test automation. Probably or might not be using in our test automation as well. But again, it is like important part of writing the programs as well as part of the interview. Okay, now we'll be discussing a couple of more methods. These are very important in terms of, at least in terms of interview, which is map, filter, and reduce. They'll definitely ask you the questions like what is difference between map, filter, and reduce method. Okay, so let's see all one by one. So first one is map. We'll start with map. Map is a method available on an array. It also takes a function as a parameter. Okay. All the methods that we'll be discussing, which is map, filter, and reduce, will take a function as a parameter. So this map method, it says that it accepts a parameter, which is a function, and this function will be applicable on each and every element of an array again. Okay, so let's see the definition of map function over here. It says that it create a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. Okay. What is meant by that is the function that will be that will declare inside the map method. This will be a function as a parameter. This function will be applicable on each and every element of an array. Okay, so this function will try to do some kind of actions, or will try to write some kind of logic inside the function, and that particular logic will be applicable on each and every element of an array. And whatever the resultant value will be, it will display us in the form of array itself. If you talk about for each method return us a value, return us a single value from an array every time. So whatever the value that we see, like we have seen earlier, that it returns us a value which is blue over here, red, blue TSJS red, and some other values as displays as a part of result, right? Whereas in terms of map method, map method says that it will accept a function, and that function again will be applicable on each and every element of an array. Okay, that will again be applicable on each and every element of an array, and it will return us the value and in terms of a map, in terms of an array itself. Okay, so so the map function will return us exactly similar number of element that we have declared as a part of original array. Let's see a syntax how it is, and then we'll try to understand. The syntax is similar to that we have seen for each loop. There is no difference at all in terms of syntax. It just says that array name dot map that we have used over here, array name dot forEach, and it accepts a function as a parameter. This map function will also accept a function as a parameter. And then we have a current value, index, and array. The significance of this current value, index, and array is exactly similar to this one that we have seen for each method. There's no difference at all in terms of current value, that it will take as a function, index and array. Now, one more property that it has is it will return us the exactly similar number of elements. Return the exactly similar number of element that we have in original array. What is under this? So let's say if you have declared an array having a 5 element inside this. So let's try to declare an array which is array 13 and we'll say it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have declared a 5 element inside this particular array. This map function will be helpful for us in terms of doing some kind of actions for an array. This will also return the exactly similar. So whenever it returns us the value, as it says that it creates a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. Whatever the result will be there, it will also return the value as a part of, it will also return a value in array format itself. That means we'll get the value in curly braces plus the number of element that it will return us as a part of result. It will be exactly 5 number of elements if I talk about this particular array that we have declared. So this way, the resultant also, that means the result that it will return map function will have exactly similar number of element that we have declared originally. So if you see over here, we have declared 5 elements, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's say now if you want to do like square of all the elements, right? So how do we do the square? As I said, all these methods will also be we'll be able to achieve by using traditional for loop as well as by using for off loop and for in loop. For off loop and for in loop will also be applicable here. But if you do not want to use for off loop or for in loop, you can directly use a map method that is available inside an array, or for each loop or filter for each method or filter method or reduce method. Now let's say how do we write the functions over here? So we'll just say it as, let's say, array 13, and then we'll be using a map function. Our requirement is to get the square of all the elements. So square of all the elements will be, the resultant value should be 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25, right? So if you see the result value, it is also having the exactly same number of element. However, we have declared as a part of original element. So I'm so sorry. So here it is like array name. So the array name that we have declared over here, then dot map from the syntax is a map method we have used over here. And then we have a function. So how do we declare a function? We can directly declare by using a function, which is anonymous function. We can also use arrow function over here as well. So in terms of arrow function, we do not provide any function keyword will directly utilize by writing an fat arrow symbol or arrow symbol, which is equals to and greater than symbol. And now this also requires a couple of parameters. So the significance will be exactly same. I'll just provide the name as element. This element is something which is current value. That means current element from an array. For the first time, it works as a loop concept. It similarly works as a loop. Whatever the number of element that we have, it will try to iterate those many times inside the array. So for the first time, this element will get the value as 1. For second iteration, it will get the value as 2. For third iteration, it will get the value as 3, and so on. Okay. Now, if I talk about in terms of traditional for loop, how do we do that? We'll be doing something like this. For let I equals to 0, which is starting from the 0th index. I is less than array that we have declared, which is 13 dot length. That means it should iterate through till the length of an array minus 1. Why minus 1? Because index starts from 0 inside an array. and then we can say it as I plus plus. And how do we get these kind of value, which is square of an element? We'll just say it as, let's say either return or console.log. We have discussed like function can also return the value, right? So we can say it as, let's say array 13 of I. We we know that this I represents the index of an array. So we can say it as array 13. And then index, for the first time, this I will become 0. So this will become, let me try to complete this, and then we can do into array 13 of I. So what will happen over here is, for the first time, this I will become 0. So array of 0, array 13 of 0 will become 1. And then again array 13 of 0, which will become 1. So 1 into 1 will become a 2, right? For the next time, 2 into 2 will become 4, and so on, right? So we are trying to do, we also can achieve this requirement, whatever we are trying to do, which is like square of each and every element of an array, by using a traditional for loop as well. And now if you try to print the value, you will see the value that we are trying to get will return us the value over here. But this will return us as a part of single element at one point of time, which is 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. So in the traditional approach, traditional for loop or for of loop, it will return us a single value at a time. It will not return us the value inside an array. But if we use map, we can achieve the uh, similar process that we have, or similar value that we have done over here. What we can say is, we can either directly print the value, which is console log, and then print the element into element. That's it. Why element into element? Because this element is basically having consists of the each and every element of an array. Every time when it iterates through the function, what the definition of this function is, whatever the function it is accepting as a parameter, this will be applicable for each and every element of an array. So it will do the process for each and every element of an array, and whatever the result value will be, the result value, we know that this will be 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25, as we have seen for the traditional loop as well, that it displays value as 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25, right? So this will also display the similar value, but here it will return us a value in terms of array. So if you are trying to print the value, which is console.log, let's see what is happening over here. So in general, it returns us a value inside an array. Okay, but if you want to see like if you want to just get the single element that we have seen at part of this one, which is traditional for loop, so you can also achieve by just providing a console.log if you want to get in the same format that we have received for um, traditional for loop, which we can say it as 1 to 25, and here as well it has displayed a single element at one point of time. But if you want to get every element as a part of array, then we have to use the key over here, which is return. So inside the function, this is an arrow function. We have taken a parameter as a function over here. This parameter represents the current element of an array. Every time when it iterates through, it will get one value from an array, and that we are saying return as a part of element into element. That means square of an element, square of all the elements that is available inside an array. And now as it is returning something, so that we have to store inside a variable, right? So we can say it as, let's say, map array. Okay, and now to print the value, we can directly print map array that we have declared over. What happened in this case is, this we have seen at the time of function as well, when we declared a function expression or anonymous function. What it does is, we have used an array, which is array name. Over here, this is the syntax, which is array name dot map method, and then this is having a different optional parameter, which is like index and array as well. But current value that we have to do an operation, or that we have to do process process any kind of methods or process any kind of logic on the functions or on the array, that will go inside the parenthesis of the function, parameter of the function inside the parenthesis of the function. So here we have used an arrow function. We can also use arrow function over here as well. And we have just said it as return element into element. That means return the square of the element. And that will get stored inside the variable, which is map array. And now we have basically printed map array over here. Now, if you see, the result will display as a part of in terms of an array, which is inside the square bracket. So this function that we have written inside the map is applicable for each and every element of an array. Okay, and it is trying to just do a square of all the elements inside the array. Okay, this we have written as a part of this we have basically written as a part of by using an arrow function, right? Whenever we use arrow function, what is the use of arrow function is it shorten the code, right? It shorten basically the code that we try to write. So let's see, we can also write this particular statement that we have written by using a curly braces inside the arrow function. We can also write in this way. Just try to see it over here and see the differences. Why it says that it used to shorten. That means array function used to short the code. So here we have used an array function, right? In terms of array function, it says that it is not mandatory to use the curly braces as well. What is meant by this is we can directly use like this as well. Array name dot map, and then this is an arrow function. Okay, this is just an arrow function that we have declared over here. It says that whenever we use an arrow function, and if we are trying to write the function inside the curly braces, then we have to write either return. Like if you want to return, then you have to write return if you are using a curly braces. But if you are not using curly braces inside the arrow function, you can directly write whatever the logic that you are trying to write, which is over here element into element. And this, what it will do is it is an arrow function. It has taken a parameter, and that parameter we are trying to square off the element into element. Now, if you see, this will exactly return the similar value that it has written earlier by using a curly braces over here, and then the return keyword. Let's try to see what is happening over here. So this will also return the exactly same value that it has written. So in terms of arrow function, it says that that is not even mandatory to declare a curly braces. If you need to declare, you can declare, but at that point of time, you have to use a return keyword as well. Or if you do not want to declare curly braces, then you can directly write the logic, whatever the logic that you are trying to write after the arrow, fat arrow symbol, which is equals to and greater than symbol. Okay, that is why it says that arrow function is used to shorten the code. We can directly write everything, every logic inside the function in a single line as well. Okay, and arrow function also says that we have already discussed, but arrow function also says that whenever you have a single element as a parameter, there is no need to write a parenthesis as well. You can directly declare like this. There is not even a need to write the parenthesis. You can directly declare, and whatever the logic that you have to write, you can also write in the same way. This will also return us the similar value that it has returned earlier, which is 1496920. So it looks pretty well. You can directly say it as it is a function. How do we know this is a function? Because as a fat arrow symbol is available over here, which is equals to and greater than. This is whatever the left side that we have written, left side of arrow symbol is a parameter, and right side of arrow symbol, whatever the logic that we have to write, we have written the logic of the function. Okay. That is again a part of arrow function we have discussed as a part of functions. So this was a map which says that it will return us the exactly similar number of element that we have declared as originally. and it will also return the value in as like array itself, as a part of array itself. Now let's move to the next method. Any question over here in terms of math? Okay. So next is a filter method. Filter is also, this filter method will also take a parameter, and the parameter significance is exactly similar to however we have seen in terms of map and for each. So I'll not go in complete detail of making and like understanding of what is current value and other things. What is the definition of filter is, it says that I have given every details over here as well inside the array. So all the details have been given inside this particular array as well. You will be able to find all the methods, all the methods that we are trying to discuss right now. So you will see a reduce, you will see a filter method, and so on. So what this filter method says that filter methods create a new array containing element that satisfy the specified condition. You see the definition over here, it says that it satisfy a specified condition. Let's see the definition. It says that it creates a new array with all the elements that passes the function or satisfies the condition, that passes by satisfy satisfies the function that we provide as a part of parameter, that we provide as a parameter. What is meant by this? So this says that whenever we use a filter method will create a new array. This will also create a new array. That means it will return us the value as in terms of an array itself inside this square bracket. However, the map has returned us. But this will display only the number of element or only those element which passes the condition, which passes the function that we have provided as a part of parameter. Now let's see the syntax and then we'll try to understand. So the syntax, there is no difference at all in terms of syntax. It also returns some value. So we can directly say it as, it returns some value, so we can store it inside a variable. But apart from that, like even the syntax is exactly similar, which is array name dot filter method. Here, earlier we have used a map method. And then it is taking a function and all the parameters are exactly similar. So no need to go again in detail of these parameters. The significance is same. So let's say we have already declared an array which is 13, array 13. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you only want to get the even number of elements, like even elements from an array, how do we get that? Like whenever we try to get the even values from an array, how do we get that? So at that point of time, either we can use a for off loop, whatever we have gone through earlier for in loop or traditional for loop, or if you do not want to use a loop condition, or if you do not want to use loop, at that point of time, we can directly use an array name dot filter as a method. This filter will take a parameter as a function. Either you can use a named function or unnamed function. That means anonymous function or arrow function as well. And this takes a parameter. You see the parameter, it is saying a value, which is a data type as number, index, which is a data type as number. And if you want to declare the array, then we can also declare an array. We have seen this earlier as well. So now let's say, if you want to check the value, which only satisfy, this says that it creates a new array with all the elements that satisfies the condition that we write inside the function. Okay? So we'll say it as element. And inside the function, we'll just try to write return only those value, which is basically which basically satisfies as a even number. So what is even number? a number which is divisible, completely divisible by 2 is known as an even number, right? So if you want to return the complete value, complete elements, which is only the even number, if you want to get only the even number from an array, then at that point of time, we can use a filter. The name itself says that a filter. If you see map over here, map itself says that whatever the number of element, just map all the elements with the available elements inside an array. Filter says that get the result as a filtering of the element. Just filter the element from an array and get those value, whatever is as a part of our requirement. So filter says that just filter the elements from an array and return us the value. So here one thing is it also creates a new array, but it might display the result, which will be in terms of this, if we have seen, it returns the exactly similar number of element as a part of um, map. But in terms of filter, whenever we use filter, it either returns it either returns the exactly similar number of element that we have in original or less than the number of element. That means if all the conditions satisfies, if at any point of time all the conditions satisfies, all the elements satisfies the condition, then all the elements will be returned. Else, whatever the element that it satisfies available inside an array will return us the value. So let's say I'll just make it as it is returning. So we have to store it inside a variable, and we can also print over here, which is let's say filter array. Okay. Now you'll see that whatever the condition, whatever the element that satisfies the condition, only those values, only those element will be returned from an array, and the value will also be an array format itself. In map, we have seen the value has returned as an array itself, but in terms of map, there'll be a question like what is difference between map and filter? Both of the syntax for both of the method are same, whether we use map or whether we use filter. But if you see the result that it displays in terms of map, it will display exactly similar number of element that we have in original array. In terms of filter, it will return as only the element that it passes from the array. So if you see over here, we have given over here to just get the element which is like basically even number from an array. So we have got it over here, which is 2 and 4. Now, if you want to get the odd number, at that point of time, we know that odd number is something which will not be divisible by 2. So here we can see the value that we have received over here is 135. And now, as part of definition, it says that it either returns the exactly similar number of element. So let's say if we say it as element is greater than 0, whatever the element that we have written over here, if those are greater than 0, then return us all those values which are greater than 0. Now, in this way, we'll see that all the elements from the array will be displayed, which is exactly similar number of element that it has displayed over here. Okay. So filter we can use whenever we have to filter the element based on some condition from an array, we can use a filter method over here. I hope this is clear for everyone. I'll take 10 more minutes and then we'll wrap up our session. The next one is known as reduce. The name itself says reduce, right? Reduce will also take a function as a parameter. The function will have exactly similar significance. But what it will do is, it will like reduce function will or reduce method will reduce the array and return us a single value as a result. What is meant by that? So this this basically reduce method will uh, whatever the function that we have written over here, right? So that function will again be applicable on each and every element of an array. Okay, each and every element of an array, and then it will return us the value. It will return us a single value. So the function that we are writing over here, the function will apply on every element of an array and return as a single value as a result. So what is under that? Let's see, when can we use those values? When can we use this reduce? So let's say if you have to get the sum of all the elements that we have inside an array. So what will be the sum or multiplication of all the elements? So what will be the sum? Sum will basically return us a single value from an array, right? So if you have to get the sum, we can, how do we do the sum? Like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. And resultant value will be a single element, a single value, right? So if you want to, return us, if you want to return value after going through with all the elements of an array, and if you want to return a single value at that point of time, we can use a reduce method. But reduce method is having some kind of some syntactical difference. Let's see what is those. So the syntax of reduce method is, it is array name dot reduce. And this reduce will take again a couple of parameters. There is a slight difference in a parameter over here. There is a slight difference in the parameter of the function over here. So this will again take a function as a parameter. Function as a parameter of reduce. And this function will take one additional parameter, which is known as accumulator. Accum is accumulator. And apart from that, other values will be exactly similar, which is current value. Other parameter will be exactly similar, which is current value, index, and array. Those are optional again. But accumulator and current value will be mandatory as a part of reduce method. Now let's see what is the significance. Significance of current value, index, and array is exactly similar to however we have discussed over here. Okay, so the current value, index, and array significance is exactly similar that we have discussed. But accumulator is the accumulated value that we got from the previous iteration. What is meant by that? So let's say we have declared an array. I'll just make it as array 14 equals to, we have some value which is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Now, whenever we try to do an addition of all the number, we'll get like, how will we receive the value as 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40 and plus 50, right? What is this accumulators is that whenever our loop runs, that means reduce, map, filter, those are loop only. Whenever the loop runs for the first time, what it will do is, for the first time, how do we start the value? Let's try to use for first a traditional loop over here. So what do we say it as? Let I equals to 0, I less than array 14 dot length. That means iterate through till the length of an array minus 1. And then how do we calculate the sum? So for that, we first declare a variable, which is sum, and then we initialize it with a 0 value, right? Sum equals to 0. We say it as sum equals to 0, or let's say name it as total equals to 0. Okay. And now how do we get the total sum of the element? So here we'll say it as total equals to total plus I. That means array of I, right? How it is happening? So this total, for the first time, it is having a value as 0. This total is having a value as operator plus cannot be applied to types number and string. Where do we have number? Array 14. So for the first time total, we have initialized the total as a 0, right? So this accumulator will be similar. Initially, this accumulator will have a 0 value. Initially, this accumulator will have a 0 value. If you want to provide by self, then you can provide it by self as well, or else based on the operation that we are trying to do, TypeScript will automatically take the value. In as a part of sum, if you are trying to do addition of the value, then it will automatically take as a 0. If you are trying to do a multiplication, it will automatically take as 1. So let's try to understand how do we calculate the sum. So we'll declare a variable which we will be initializing with 0. And then every time once loop runs, we'll say it as total equals to total plus array 14 of I. What is Indra do? Initially, the total is 0. So this total becomes total equals to 0 plus array I. Array I is array 14 of 0. The first value is 10. So, so the next time this total becomes a 10. That means this is an accumulator which is accumulating all the previous iterations. For the first time, 0 plus 10. So now the total becomes 10. Now again, when loop runs for the second time, this will say it as total equals to 10 plus the next value, which is 20. Now the resultant becomes 30, right? And next time it will say 30 plus 30. The resultant becomes 60. Now next time it will become the resultant becomes 16. That means accumulated value is now 60. And then next value, what is we have inside an array, which is 40. It will become 40, and then it will keep on iterating till the number of an element we have. So that is what the accumulator is, which accumulates the value from the previous iteration. Okay. Now let's see how do we use this how do we do this operation, which is similarly we can achieve by using a reduce method. So it says that array 14 dot reduce. It will take 1 as a accumulator. So the function we have to write first, it will take a function as a parameter. And the first value will be, it is saying a previous value. That means accumulated. Whatever the value it is trying to accumulate. First time 0 plus 10, second time 10 plus 20, third time 30 plus 30, 60 plus 40, 100 plus 50, and so on, right? So this will be an accumulator. So what we can say it as, let's say, I'll just give the name as total. Okay. So you have given a name as total over here. And second parameter, what we'll be declaring is, we'll be declaring as the current value, right? So we also have to declare current value. Index and array are optional, but we have to provide accumulator and current value as a part of reduce function. So we can just say it as element over here. Okay. And now what we are trying to do, we are trying to do, which is return total plus element, return total plus element. Or you can also give the value as sum over here, sum element, and then you can say it as sum plus element. Okay. Now this is an accumulator which accumulates the value from the previous iteration. This is the element which is having an idea of the current element that we are getting from the array. And here, if you see in traditional way, we also provide the value, which is initial value. So initial value we have provided at 0. So that initial value will go as the second parameter of the array. Okay. So we can also provide the second parameter over here, which is initial value. Okay. So this will be second parameter. This will go after the curly braces. Okay. So this initial value we have declared over here as 0, which is similar to the initial value that we have declared over. Okay, as it is returning some value, so we can say it as, let's say, const reduce result. Just say it as reduced result. Okay, and now to print the value, we can print the reduced result over here. Whatever the sum of the element that we have, it will return us the value. So it returns us the value, whatever the sum of the element will be there. So we'll see it as, it is returning us a value, which is 150 over here. This is not coming from this one, right? This is not coming from this one because we are not trying to print over here. let's print the value as well. So it will just say it as, let's say, every time it will return us. So we'll try to print over here, which is, we'll give the name as total. And now we'll see that uh, both of the result are same, either by using a traditional for loop or by using a reduce method. Now let's say if you do not provide the initial value, what happens? If you do not provide the initial value, TypeScript is generally smart in picking up the values. So you can see still it has given a 150 and automatically it has taken the value based on the operation as an initial value. So let's say I'm saying as multiplication, and if I do not provide, we know that if it takes a parameter initial value as 0, at that point of time the resultant will become 0, because 0 into anything will become a 0. So in terms of multiplication, we have to give the initial value as 1, because any value that you multiply with 1 will have the same value as a result. But if you do not provide, based on the operation that we are trying to do, it will automatically take the initial value. So you can see it over here that it has automatically taken the initial value as 1 over here also. Okay. So this is all about uh, the method that we have in array. There are a couple of more methods, which is sum and every, that we have over here, which is like sum and every. Those are not so important. I have given as a part of array, as a part of document. But if you people have 5 minutes of time, I can cover up that sum and every as well. Anyways, like those are not so important. If you have 5 minutes of time, I'll continue. Else I'll stop it over here.
Yes, Praveen, you can describe the case.
Okay. So these are very simple. It will not take more than 5 minutes of time. So let's complete it over here as well, so that we'll complete array as a part of the get set. So the next one is known as a sum. Sum is a method which also takes a function as a parameter. But what is the definition of sum? Is it checks, it will return us a value as a boolean. That means either true or false. So it checks whether at least one element in the array, at least one element in the array passes the function that we have provided, passes the function that we have provided as a parameter. What is meant by that? So it will return us a value based on uh, it will return us a value as a part of either true or false. True or false. So whatever the value that it returns, it will return as a part of in terms of true or false as a result, right? So this also takes a function, and this function will also be applicable on each and every element of an array. And whatever the element, it says that in terms of sum, it says that sum of the element. That means if at least one of the element of an array passes the function, at that point of time, it will return us true. If none of the element passes the function, whatever the function that we provide, if none of the element passes the function, at that point of time, it will throw us a false value. Okay, so either it returns true or it will return us a false. Let's see the syntax. Syntax is similar to however we have seen for each, map, reduce, and filter. I'll not go in details of other things, but let's try to use on the same value that we have declared over here, which is 10, 20, 40, 50, and 60. So we'll say it as array 14 dot sum. It will take a function. First, we'll try to check. We'll try to give a value. Let's say we'll say that the first value will be an element, which is current value. Other values are optional. So element, and then we'll start the logic over here. And let's say if we just say it as return elements divide by 2 equals to 1. That means we are trying to check if there are any element available inside an array as an odd number, right? So if none of the element is available, then it will throw us a value which is like false. Let me declare another value. So I'll just say it as, let's say, let array 15 equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'm saying over here as any of the element is greater than 4. Okay. Let's try to write the another condition. So we are saying element is greater than 4. So if any of the element is greater than 4 inside the array, if any, even a single element is greater than 4 inside an array, at that point of time, it will return us a true value, else it will return us a false value. So I'll just say it as sum over here. Okay. Let's see what happens in terms of this. We are just trying to print console log sum. And let's see what is happening. We know that 5 is greater than 4. As per the definition, it says that if any of the element, if at least one of the element passes the function, that means we have given a function which is element is greater than 4. So if we have to make a decision based on at least one element passes the function, we can use a sum method. Okay, so we have said here that element is greater than 4. We know that there is one element which is greater than 4, which is 5. If any of the element passes the function, at that point of time, it will return us a true value. But if you say over here, like any of the element is greater than 5, we know that none of the element is greater than 5 over here. One of the element, which is basically true over here. So it just says that it is, we are using of the wrong element. So let's say first we'll check it as 4. So if any of the element is greater than 4 over here, so it says is that the value, at least one value is matching. So it is true. If any of the element is not, if any of the element, if at least one single element is not matching, at that point of time, it will return us a false value because none of the element is matching the condition that we have written inside a function. Okay. So sum method says that if any of the element matching or passes the function, then it will return us a true value. If none of the element is passes the function, then it will return us a false value. Now, every is a method which is entirely opposite to sum. What it says is, if all the elements passes the condition, that means it checks whether all the elements passes the condition, checks whether all the elements in the array passes the function that we have provided as a function, then it will return us a true, then return true, else false, or it will return us a false. Okay, so this will also either return us a true value or false value. If all the elements matching the condition, then it will return us a true, else it will return us a false. So if you see the example over here that we have written, see, it has automatically printed us everything for me, right? It's just because I have already used these values many times inside the Visual Studio Code. So it returns us those values that I have already used. So if you would like to use the same, you can use it. So it is again same, array name dot every. It takes a function which is having the similar parameter. So we have declared an array which is array 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we, as a part of syntax, we can see this is array name dot every. It takes a function. We have defined a parameter which is element, which will get the value, current value from the array. And we are saying return greater than 5. If all the elements are greater than 5, then only it will print us a true value. If any of the element not passes the condition, at that point of time, it will return us a false. We can see here a false. Let's say if you just say it as greater than 1, if all the elements are greater than 1 or not, we know that 1 is not greater than 1. So it will return us again a false value over here. You can see false. Though other values are matching, passes the condition, but every says that it has to pass, or like all the elements has to pass the function. Now, if you see over here, which is 0, we know that every element passes the condition over here. So this time it will throw us a true value. Okay. So the difference between sum and every is sum checks at least one element passes the condition or not, and every checks if all the elements, if all it has to throw us a true value if all the elements passes the condition. Okay. So the difference between sum and every is sum checks at least one element, every checks all the elements should have to pass the condition. Okay. So with this, I'll stop the session over here.